Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to a series I have not done another episode in ages. That is the Final Reckoning. So for those who don't know, this is the series where I rewatch movies that I have previously said to have utterly despised or called one of the worst movies of all time, or just really didn't like. And to see if my opinions have changed, how they have changed, and what my opinion is on that movie now. So, the selection for this episode is Brother Bear. So, I'll be honest, going into this, I barely remembered anything about this movie. The only thing, the main thing I think I remembered was just the fact that I really didn't like it as a kid. And sadly, this is not as interesting of an episode because my opinions really have not changed that much. This movie is still so bad. It's still one of the worst movies of all time. Like, just, oh my god, it's so bad. However, there were some positives, which I'm just gonna get them out of the way quickly because it's about like this much compared to the negatives, which is about like this big. So let's get started, I guess. So the positives. I like the Native American inspiration. I think it's kind of a unique idea for like an inspirational thing. You know, Disney loved to do movies based on different cultures and different belief systems, and overall I think that kind of belief system is very well represented in this movie. So that's one positive. Second positive, I appreciate like what they did with themes. The themes in this movie are like decently adult, but also like good enough to the point where they would be applicable to kids. Which is something I noticed and I appreciated a decent amount in this movie. And that's where the positives end. So now we need to get into the negatives because holy moly, there's a lot. So to begin with, very simply, this movie was made in 2003. It looks like shit. The animation is absolutely horrible for 2003. Like, it's watchable, but for 2003, especially hand-drawn animation, this movie looks terrible. This movie has awful animation. Absolutely terrible. Like, when you compare something like this to Finding Nemo, which literally released in the same year, it still looks incredible, and that looks amazing for 2003. This movie is an abomination to animation in 2003 standards. It looks awful. I also think the soundtrack was like very mid. I'm not really sure like who composed it. I can't really do cuts like I can on my computer, so it's not as easy for me to Google that stuff. But because I'm not recording on my computer, I'm recording on my phone. However, yeah, I mean, it's just, well, okay. There's the soundtrack, and then there's the songs. We're gonna get to the songs in a minute. Oh Lord. But just overall, like the soundtrack was just kind of I mean, it wasn't bad, but there's just a lot better Disney movies that just have better soundtracks, in my opinion. Like, The Lion King or Aladdin or something like that. And now the songs. Oh my god, the songs. So, firstly, I want to mention that this is not really a musical movie, unlike a lot of other Disney movies, because there's no songs until like the last 35 minutes, during which 3 songs are just, I mean, they're separated, but they really, really feel crammed in. So, like, because of that, I cannot call this movie a musical movie, unlike a lot of other, like, Disney animated films, like The Lion King, for example, which has songs very sporadically throughout the movie. This is not that. This is just, like, 3 completely terrible songs that were just crammed in the last 35 to 40 minutes that were just completely unnecessary. Like, they served absolutely no point to the story besides making me cringe. And cringe very, very hard. I don't even remember what all the songs were about, because they are literally that forgettable. Like, this movie should not have had songs. It's just, they're bad and forgettable, and I'm trying to make a habit of making points more concise in my videos, so I'm going to stop that there. So now, we move on to the big boy, the plot. Oh dear God, the plot. Like, yeah, because I'm going to do plot before characters in this. So, within the first 30 minutes, I can sufficiently say that after, because, like, I had to do this in 2 different watching sessions. Like, I watched, like, the first 35 minutes, and then I finished the rest of the movie, like, a couple minutes ago as I started recording this video. So now that we're like 9 minutes, and that probably like 15 minutes ago, approximately, something like that. So this movie is like fresh in my brain, because I wanted to record this right after finishing it. So like on my first watching session, like I said, I watched like the first 35 minutes. I can sufficiently say that after that, I had no idea what in the hell was going on. Like, I understood, but I also didn't. It's like, in one ear, out another. It's like, zoop. Maybe I was just so brain dead because, dear God, the plot is so stupid in this movie. Oh my God. So, it starts out with these three pairs of brothers, Sitka, Kenai, and Denahi. Um, and Sitka's the oldest, Kenai is the youngest, Denahi is the middle brother. So they're having this whole ritual where they like find what animal and like what their symbol is, or whatever it was. I can't exactly remember, because it was that forgettable. And basically, Kenai is like, "Oh, I got love. Oh, boo hoo hoo." So then, like, plot progression, like I think something about like Kenai was supposed to hang a thing of salmon from the like from like a tree so bears wouldn't get to it. And when that doesn't happen, he screws up. Very predictable plot mess. The bear comes up to eat the salmon. They get mad. They go after to chase the bear. One thing happens after another, and eventually Sitka ends up sacrificing himself to make sure that the bear does not kill Kenai and Denahi. Keep this plot thread in mind because it actually miraculously repeats itself later in the movie. But I'll get to that. So I don't even remember what happens after that, but they're like all depressed and crap, and so they end up killing the bear, and then one thing leads to another, because that's my way of saying I don't remember it, but somehow Kenai ends up as a bear, because he's like transformed. I wasn't kidding when I say this plot is dumb. He gets transformed at the top of the mountain by Sitka to atone for his sins, or to like make up for his mistakes. And that is how he turns into a bear. I mean, it's miraculously dumb. It is honestly miraculously dumb. It's so stupid. So thus far, this is kind of like a good segue point because this is kind of like where I stopped watching, about where I stopped watching the first part of my bingings, of my viewing. So far, kind of confusing plot, very predictable setup that leads to, kind of predictable plot thread, mostly very predictable, very stupid, but like, and then we get to the bear thing, which is incredibly stupid. So that's just like a recap of where we are right now. So then, and then, so then Denahi doesn't know that Kenai turned into a bear. So naturally, he thinks that it's the same bear that also killed Kenai, right? So then, the whole idea behind Kenai going to kill the bear in the first place was to get revenge for Sitka, right? Okay, that's a plot line. It exists. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just in the movie. Well, guess what? Remember how I said that a plot thread would repeat? This is where it repeats. because Denahi literally does the same thing for the entire rest of the movie, but just avenging Kenai and Sitka. And it, like, tries to make him the main character, even though Kenai is supposed to be the main character. What? I mean, what kind of writing is that? That's so completely nonsensical. Why? Like, it's as if the writers just completely ran out of ideas for Denahi to do crap for the rest of the film. So they're just like, oh, let's just have him repeat the same throttling that Kenai does. That's semi-compelling. And by just repeating it, we'll make it the most non-compelling plotline ever. Like, oh my god. I mean, like, I was in, like, genuine disbelief at just how lazy the quality of writing is in this movie. I mean, dear Lord, it's so bad. I mean, it is honestly, like, just ridiculous. It's insane. And this movie is dumb. So, yeah. So then, after that, then we get into, like, the second half of the movie. And I will admit something that there is a positive here, because I feel like the story starts to make a little more sense. So, bravo movie on that. However, that's immediately brought on by another giant negative. Because everything that happens in the remaining 2 acts of the movie, I don't really know. The second and third act feel like blended together into one gigantic mess. Honestly, like, it's kind of like a smoothie gone wrong. Like, just, it doesn't turn out the way you want. It just tastes gross. All the stuff is mixed together. It's just like a smoothie that just, like, just put the wrong ingredients and everything just went wrong with it. That's what the second and third acts of this movie are like. It's just one gigantic muddled mess. Because everything in the second, third act of the movie feels out of place. Now, what do I mean by that? So, I'm going to reference Iron Man 2 here for some examples, because they actually have some quite glaring similarities in the problems, but, like, how their plot problems are a bit different. Iron Man 2 suffer from the grave issue of there being too many plot lines. With this movie, it feels like someone was just playing a game of, like, I don't even know. It's like someone played a game of word search with the different plot pieces. Okay, I realize this is a weird analogy, but it's like someone played word search with all the plot pieces, but then got them scrambled up and couldn't actually solve the word search, which meant that they were all out of order and the plot sequencing thus doesn't make any sense. So that's basically what happens. It's like someone mixed up all the plot points, and now all the plot sequencing is messed up and nothing makes sense. Like, everything just feels completely out of order. Like, there were so many scenes that felt like they should be, like, rearranged. Like, one should be for one, and another should be for another. Like, I can't remember specific examples, but, like, yeah. So, he gets turned into a bear. Oh, boo-hoo, like, all this stuff. Then we meet the mooses. The moose. So, there's like a pair of moose brothers, and they are some of the unfunniest characters I've ever seen in any movie. They are supposed to be the comic relief, and to be honest, they're just barely not as on, they're a little bit funnier than Justin Hammer, but it's like so close to that level. Some of the unfunniest characters I've ever seen in the movie. It's like, and they're supposed to be the comic relief characters, and it does not work. It falls spectacularly on its head because none of their jokes are funny. At most, all it got out of me was a snort. And even that was an iffy. That's how unfunny this was. Justin Hammer didn't have them though, which is why they're slightly above Justin Hammer in terms of that. And so, they don't believe him. And so, eventually, he meets this little bear named Coda, who doesn't know where his mom is. So, they band together, and it's like, okay, I'll help you to the mountain if you take me to the salmon run, which is like the thing where all the bears meet up and they eat salmon and woo-ha. So they go along, and then we begin the ever predictable and cringy process that is built upon the tropes of 1,000 other movies, including other Disney movies, of the predictable building of a relationship between two unlikely characters. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean it's all the predictable plot points where one character tries to get to the other to like them, the other one doesn't like it first, but slowly they grow to like each other more and more, and then there's the cringe dialogue about their emotional connection, like how I've always wanted a brother, which is what Coda says, and that's the example of that. And then, of course, they have an argument that fizzles out to nowhere, and then they have, this big realization, and they're all friends again. And now, I will credit this movie on something, because, before that, so all while that predictable crap is happening, and you have the moose characters tagging along for, absolutely no reason at all, being completely unfunny, and basically just wasting ink reciting lines of unfunny dialogue that were written down in the script. All the while, you have Denahi, who is repeating the same plot thread from earlier in the movie, but just less compelling, of trying to avenge his brothers. And so it leads to two anticlimactic, very, very anticlimactic encounters, might I add, which ultimately don't lead to literally anything. So, after this, then they finally make it to the salmon run, right? So that's where they meet all the other bears, and this some very predictable bear types, and he's all nervous about it, and so eventually, they go upstairs, and eventually, Kenai gets the realization, oh my god, the bear we killed was Coda's mother, which, in fairness, was a twist I did not expect. So, bravo movie for catching me off guard with that. That was a fairly decent twist idea. it's very unfortunate that the character fallout was as predictable as ever, because it was actually a semi-decent twist, in my opinion. It's sad that the character fallout afterwards was the most predictable crap ever. So, after the whole thing is revealed to Coda, they go away in sadness and all that, and then they try and make up, but then and then the Moose have like this really cheesy discussion about like what the hell it means to be brothers, which is about as much as they contribute to the plot, which is like not very much at all. And so then it's like they sorry, I lost my words there for a second. So then it's like he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I want to fix things and all that. All that. So after that, then, they have then, he tries to go up to the mountain by himself, and then he's found by Anahi. They have another anticlimactic encounter, and then Sika miraculously comes in, reveals he's the bear. And then we have the absolutely dog shit ending where he chooses to remain as a bear because he realizes that Coda needs him, yada yada yada. That's the most cheesiest ending ever. And then for some reason, Denahi is the one that gives the, ending voiceover in a super deep voice for, no reason. As if he was the main fucking character the entire time. Don't get it? Don't get it? That's once again, that's so inconsistent because the beginning of the movie set up Kanai as the main character and starts to follow through, while at the same time, the movie tries to make Denahi the other main character. You cannot have two main protagonists in a movie. Not in a movie like this anyways, it just doesn't work. So, yeah, that point's up. Let's get into the characters. This is going to be a slightly short section. So, Sitka, forgettable, he's barely in the movie, doesn't make much of an impact at all. And doesn't even talk. Even when he shows up as, a spirit, he doesn't even talk. So, barely in the movie. Denahi, completely forgettable. The movie tries to make him, like I just said, a second main character, and it just doesn't work. Kenai is a very, very boring character, and just follows all very predictable plot tropes that are just all incredibly uninteresting. Coda, very, very annoying, also extremely, extremely predictable, probably more than Kenai's character. Old lady, barely in the movie. And that's about all the major characters. Oh, wait, yeah. The Moose suck. The Moose should never have been in this movie. They add no comedic value, and they are just horrible. And, the one little bit that they contribute to the plot is the most predictable nonsense ever. It's aggravating how, predictable that is. So, in conclusion, the positives: decent plot twist, nice inspiration, cool themes. That's about it. The plot is nonsensical, stupid, repetitive, just completely out of order and messy, and completely brain dead. It's as if all the writers that made this movie were drunk and high at the same time while being under hypnosis. That's about as much sense as the plot of the movie makes. And then a lot of the characters very predictable and cringeworthy and not very interesting. In the case of the Moose, they should just be deleted from existence because they're that fucking bad. And the animation looks terrible for 2003, and the soundtrack is very mid. So overall, some positives, but also this movie is still one of the absolute worst movies of all time, no question. Thank you for watching this episode of The Final Reckoning, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.